Please welcome Gunjan Soni from Myntra, and she's here with us to render the third keynote address of this conference. Please put your hands together for Gunjan Soni. Gunjan, the stage is all yours.
Hi, morning everyone. Am I audible? Okay, great. So it's a real pleasure to be here today. I think, in the space of what's happening in marketing, I personally believe that it's really content in its various facets that's playing, a really critical role in actually transforming the way we are actually engaging with our consumers at literally every step of the funnel, right? And I thought what we could do today was actually maybe share with you some of the experiments that we've done, the learnings that we have, and keep it a more open conversation to get to hear back from you as well. Are we ready? Okay, so so if you thought this was a keynote and I'm going to actually let you go scot-free and I'll be actually talking all the way through, let me bust that surprise. So let's start with a very short quiz, right? I think you've all been talking about the power of content, what's happening, how the consumer journeys are shifting. So let's see how much of what we've been hearing, we can recollect. So anybody volunteering to pick up, the proportion of urban Indians who today actually consume content online on a daily basis versus, the total population which was consuming it earlier, which we all know was largely dominated by TV and print. Any guesses from the audience? 40, 80? Okay, I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. It's actually close to 45%. So which means that 1 in every 2 adults in the urban India today, and I refer to urban India, I mean like the top, not just the top metro centers, but actually the tier 1 and tier 2s included, are actually consuming some form of content online, at least for an hour daily, right? And this number has actually literally doubled in a single year. Okay, number of people who are actually consuming content which could be either entertainment or sports, because that's the most popular content, let's say online every month. Now this is a number of people, not proportion. So any guesses again? Come on, you got the first one right. 100 million. Anyone else? 40 million. Okay, so here we've been less aggressive. It's actually close to 200 million, right? So, and this data actually, when I looked at it, actually not too far back, just about a month back, it shocked me, right? Because during some part of my career, I also worked with Star, and at that point in time, we used to actually talk about how it will take years before such massive number of consumers will actually start consuming long-form content online, right? And that's what makes this interesting. This is a really easy one, given what we've been talking about. So what do you think has been the year-on-year growth of the multiple OTT platforms that are, that have proliferated in India and literally in the last 1 year? Okay, let me not pain you. It's actually 400%, right? So the story that these numbers tell us is that, when we talk about content and the fact that it's turning digital, it's actually not a hype. It's actually already happened. And therefore, as marketers, we have to sit up and take notice and actually start shifting how we are actually leveraging content and how we are engaging with our consumers across the touch points of their journey. A very quick snapshot about Myntra, and today I'm going to actually use most examples from Myntra and not from Jabong, but I'll intersperse a few from there as well. Between the two companies, we are the #1 fashion vertical in the country today. Close to 2,000 plus brands, and these are actually brands because we don't list any non-branded consumption items on our platforms at all. But what's very interesting for us is actually the number of consumers who actually started to engage and come on a daily basis to these platforms. The total of about close to 28 million consumers are coming on a monthly basis to the platforms to actually do something, if not necessarily buy. And I'll talk about it a bit later, how we are actually transforming into becoming a content platform ourselves in addition to actually being purely a commerce platform. Close to 20K pin code served. And another very interesting insight, everybody talks to me saying, hey, online, fashion, this must be very metro-centric. So actually, and therefore it comes as a major surprise for most people that close to 50% of our sales actually come from the non-metros and tier 1 centers, right? Because that's where actually you face the largest access gaps in terms of getting access to branded fashion. A quick snapshot of the profile, and this will help you understand the context of several of the learnings that I'll share. Because we are addressing a consumer that's young, that's diverse. So we are kind of talking about anywhere from 18 years to all the way to 40 years of age. So fairly diverse, a good blend of men and women, close to 55% men on the platform. Mass premium. So again, that has implications on the kind of content formats that we choose. So if you use the socioeconomic classification that the government does for us, it's actually close to 61% in the Sec A, right, as we define it. And we are actually overweight versus the online internet population to the extent of 2.5x when it comes to the penetration of Sec A consumer base on our platforms. Extremely tech savvy, shouldn't come as any surprise. 95% smartphone adoption, and the remaining 5% actually people who are currently consuming and buying products mostly on desktops and MM. Okay, so what are some of our core beliefs on content marketing? And it was interesting to actually hear the previous two speakers, because I think a lot of it resonated, and I was going through that trend report from LinkedIn, and I couldn't sit up but take notice of the fact that actually literally every trend predicted there we are doing, right? But what I'm sharing today is somewhat more distillized, words of wisdom that we've accumulated over the last couple of years as we've been doing this. Number one, genuinely believe that digital media is a great equalizer. And what do I mean by that? If you look at the traditional world, and as a marketer, the number of options you had in offline marketing, it was literally a game of how much money that you had, right? The more money that you had allowed you to buy that many more reach and access points. But digital today actually provides an opportunity that on the back of truly powerful contents, you can actually, play a winning game versus, another larger company which may have much more might of money, but is actually not producing good quality content, right? So to that extent, I love digital as a medium because it actually is a great equalizer and forces you to actually compete and put out high quality content on the back of just the content itself and not the money that's supporting it. Nothing more important than the power of storytelling. On this particular one, I'm very old school, that any good quality content, you want to create a blockbuster content, go back to the fundamentals of human insight, go back to the fundamentals of how do you actually tell that insight in the form of a powerful story. How many of us, when we go back, actually remember numbers? But most of us actually remember stories. And that's the power that we've actually used time and again in our way of engaging with the consumers and telling them what we are all about. Number three, right influencers. But also using the right influences at the right time. I personally believe creates a kind of a cascading network impact, which you otherwise won't get by just using an influencer at any point in time, right? So if you look at the funnel, we find influencers can actually be helpful both at the top of the funnel as well as the conversion stage. And we've experimented with both, but we found that actually during the conversion stage, the right influencer at the right time actually tends to play a better role in terms of getting you immediate effectiveness. Context. Can't emphasize on this enough. Context makes all the difference, right? And therefore, I'm no surprise that it's led to contextual marketing itself as an entire new field of exploration. And that's what we leverage all the time, right? Occasions are context. In an individual's life, the various phases of change that they are going through, and we use that in segmentation to map whether the person has just moved to a marital status change and so on. So that context embedded with The broader context of fashion shopping is what we have often used very successfully as well. Every touch point, literally every touch point is an opportunity for content marketing. So we don't limit ourselves to any one medium. Yes, being a online focused company, a bulk of our spends are on digital. So actually close to our 60 to 65% of our spends are done on digital mediums. But we do use content marketing across the spectrum. And I'll talk about how we choose and decide, where to amplify which medium. Finally, and like I said, what's a good keynote without some controversy? So these are some, this is a word of advice. We have learned over a period of time that don't fall in love with web series, right? And what do I mean by that? I'm not saying don't experiment with web series. I think what I'm trying to say is that in the colloquial way, that love is blind, right? So don't be blind about just saying that this is a new fad and therefore all of us must get onto it, right? Be thoughtful about whether the content is actually going to resonate with your TG. Be thoughtful about the fact that is the embedding that is being proposed actually meaningful, or is it just a label that you're going to get at the end of the day, right? So these are some distilled learnings that I thought we'll share basis the experiments. And just to illustrate some of them. Number one, I talked about the power of good old storytelling, right? So we are from the fashion media. Now, if you think about, when you just think about the last 10 to 15 fashion ads that you've seen, right? What do you find common between them? Good looking people, good looking clothes, very hip music, and people just going around doing various things in a stylish way, right? That's been the standard format that literally every fashion brand has been using to actually reach out to the consumers, right? And we said, what if we break that, right? What if we actually bring genuinely the power of storytelling back into this? And here's what we were trying to do, right? We realized that as an industry leader, our aim is to actually not kind of, keep garnering share from each other. And I genuinely believe that we are actually making a market in this category, and therefore the only real competition we have is actually with the offline world, and changing a consumption habit that's been built over years of actually shopping and behaving in a certain way and changing that, right? So when you have to do that, you have to go back to that human insight of what's stopping them from actually doing it. And we found in most cases it was just inertia, right? And while people were giving it very logical reasons, like they would come back and say, oh, but you can't touch and feel, and there's a certain joy with shopping. But the reality of it all was that, they were fundamentally uncomfortable trying something new. So this was an attempt to actually break that barrier. Now I'll let the video do the justice to this. Can somebody help me?
कब से चल रहा है?
शादी के बाद.
This lovely anarkali, my favorite jeans, ये सारे gifts.
सब Myntra. But you love.
But I hate buying fashion online. Anything can go wrong.
हाँ, but you love. अच्छा ठीक है, ये नई वाले रिटर्न कर देता हूँ. सेम डे पैसे वापस मिल.
What? No. I love it. I hate you.
Over 2,000 brands, easy returns. Try Myntra, you'll love it.
So this was an example and an attempt to break from the usual mold of the way content was being used in the world of fashion. And what did that do for us? It created almost unthinkable likability scores, right? Most content is considered good if it meets a 70% plus likability score. And here it shot through the roof, right? So we had as high as 92% likability of the ad because it was using a human insight, which was the barrier to shopping, but equally it was using a human insight of the fun chemistry that husband can wife share around the world, right? So most people could resonate, especially in our PG, with that vibe and that atmosphere, and they could see themselves therefore being the shoppers and actually being there. And of course, when it comes to outcomes, it actually led to 20% higher new customer acquisitions that were coming from people who had earlier not experimented with online shopping itself, right? So it actually worked to break the barrier that we had set out to do. Another example, Again, this was an attempt to break away from the good-looking people and good-looking clothes syndrome. And we said, okay, as a fashion brand, can we still have a point of view, right? And this is for a private label that Myntra has called Anoop. And the whole philosophy of Anoop is that it's for a contemporary modern Indian woman. And the first image of a modern Indian woman is that she should be wearing westerns, right? But this was an ethnic wear brand, but yet it was meant for the modern Indian urban woman. And we said, what is the one sentiment that all these women share, irrespective of their preferences about the type of clothes they want to wear? It's their belief that in today's world, beauty is not about, being typecasted, but it's actually about taking bold decisions and holding their own future. And we thought, why don't we use that insight? And therefore, literally every content piece that we've done with the move actually latches on to that insight and talks about it. Can I have the image, please?
They loved it. Well done. It's a nice jacket. Lovely color. It almost hides your bump.
You have a problem with my bump, no?
What?
You've assigned Vivek to all my clients, and I believe he's also getting promoted over me.
Look, it's a management decision.
Right.
I wanted to tell you sooner,
But it's a bit too late.
but this is no reflection on your performance. Okay, Shine?
Then what is it?
Our clients need a senior architect who's around. And you're...
Handicapped because I'm pregnant.
You're taking this the wrong way.
Am I? Uma, I've worked nights on this project and you're judging me by my pregnancy, not by my work. Yeah, left Lilina aage.
Shaheen, I think that you should just focus on your baby now. And next year, if you want to come back, of course we'll consider you for a promotion.
I think I can manage both. Yeah, gate ke andar lena.
You've got a new place?
That's my new office. I'm starting off on my own. Uma, thanks for everything. I designed it. Do you like it?
Don't do this, Shaheen. You're the best we have.
Had.
I mean, this particular one always manages to make me take a pause, right? Because it does genuinely remind us of a genuine stereotype and bias that we carry in our society. And we deliberately used a woman boss here to make the point even further. It was a long form content, and we chose to keep it that way. This campaign ran only on digital and on no other medium. And this is where I was talking about digital being the great equalizer, right? We spent less than 10 lakh rupees on this campaign, and still it gave us close to 3.5 million views, close to 100K plus shares that people were doing on their own. Women were talking about it. And for a good 1 month, Radhika Apte became more famous as a result of this act, right? So this is just to bring back to us to the fact that truly, if we create powerful content, we don't need to market ourselves. Our consumers, if they resonate with the insight that we're talking of, will do the job for us. Influencers. We've all talked about influencers, and every industry has its fair share. Given that we are from the fashion industry, we find that Bollywood is something that most Indians take inspiration from. So Bollywood, designers, sports celebrities are all in their own ways shaping what an Indian considers as aspirational fashion wear. And that's something that we have leveraged, for most people who've seen, our ads, and especially during our most iconic sale that we do, which is called the end of weekly sale. We actually bring together a network of celebrities to kind of endorse it. The reason we believe that it works is twofold, not just because they're influencers, but I think there are two learnings there, right? One is that you have to think about more embedded partnerships. So we actually don't use influencers as just the endorsement faces, which most intelligent consumers today have come to realize. Is that today they could be supporting one brand, tomorrow it could be another brand, right? So we are actually working on the basis of more deeply embedded partnerships, which go to the extent of actually working together on existing brands with them, right? So with both Kritik and Deepika, we actually work with them very deeply in actually co-creating brands that they own as well, and then promote jointly with us in these events. The other thing that we found incredibly helpful is that in the world of social, the network impact can give you so much more, right? And rather than therefore just use one person or two people, we actually in our last end of season sale edition that we did in Jan, we actually used 20 celebrities simultaneously talking about it in various shapes and forms. What that did do, it actually created 25 million reach for us, and this is unduplicated reach because of people posting on their social handles and so on, right? And that kind of reach is actually priceless because these are fans who are directly engaging and then reposting on their own. So that's another example of, again, using credible influencers was on the platform itself. So we worked with Vogue to actually create an iconic fashion event. Globally, they do an event called Vogue Fashion Night, Vogue Fashion Night Out, and that's the whole night that they actually create an entire. They usually take over a shopping mall and do this event, right? And we said, okay, what if we actually hosted it online? And from there came the idea of VogueFashionNight.in, powered by Myntra. So we hosted this event entirely. It worked beautifully for us. It actually helped the engagement scores for us go up by close to 10% in terms of top of mind awareness for people who engage with this. The sell-through rates for this designer content went through the roof. We had close to 85% sell-through rate. It was only a one-night event. And we are very clear that we'll be repeating this format on a regular basis now. I talked about the power of context, right? And sorry, I'm going a little faster because I'm cognizant of the total time and I want to leave some time for Q&A in the end. But we do genuinely believe that context makes all the difference, right? And how do we use context and what I mean by that, right? So two examples. One is that, and we've done our fair share of Mother's Day and Women's Day and all of that, which is contextual ads. But we thought, why not do something different, right? Myntra usually does a sale around Independence Day and Republic Day. And we said, do they really need to be at cross purposes? Most sales ads just talk about, X% off, and just come to us, right? And we said, because the sale is around a certain event, can we use it to again make a point of view? And one of the point of view is that now, because this was not our private label, this was Myntra as a platform. Myntra as a platform believes in democratizing fashion, right? And we do genuinely believe that fashion should be accessible to all, and therefore the emphasis in the downstream penetration as well and providing access. So we said, okay, why not again use the power of a compelling story to make that point? And I hope you get the point when you see this. Can I have the lady, please?
स्वैग है रे तुझ में तू खुल के जी ले स्टाइल का राजा स्टाइल की रानी फैशन कर ले फैशन कर ले fashion kar le.
Myntra's right to fashion sale from 13th to 15th August. Claim your stylish self now.
Fashion kar le.
Things don't define us. Each and every one of us has a right to display our identity. And again, the beauty of the content was that, and everybody, actually everybody in the company was very deeply worried when we were actually going to run this ad, because they were like, okay, you're not really talking about the sale for all of the 45 seconds, and it actually comes only at the end. We did use clever embedding of that, during the context of the whole theme, and we actually ran a quiz contest on that on our social media handles, making people guess the number of times they could actually spot the right to fashion sale during the ad and not just at the end. But the results actually spoke the other way around, right? Because it resonated so well, the completion rates were actually 3x higher of our average ads. And a lot more importantly, and we are obsessed about measurement, we found that we actually saw the ROI go up by a close to 1.5x, right, of similar events that we had done in the past. And again, needless to say, given the shares and mentions and so on, we got, again, it was a digital only campaign. The only thing we amplified it with was one print ad that we did around that time. So that was another example, and then I made a point about using content across touch points, right? And I therefore wanted to share two completely divergent examples of that. One is, in our world, the more traditional interpretation of usage of content today, which is in the app itself, right? So the Myntra app is actually, in our mind, a digital publishing platform, right? It gets close to 18 million daily active users which come on the platform, and not all of them come to just do shopping. Remember the concept of window shopping? We have made sure that Myntra is an exciting window shopping opportunity that you have anytime you have free time in your car, anytime you're waiting for something, or actually in office, where on desktops a lot of women especially fondly say that they use this for window shopping, right? And therefore we actually give them the content that they want to see. There's a lot of content we publish. We publish close to 50,000 fresh pieces of content every year, right? This goes as content about trends. This is about the banners that we have. This is about the do-it-yourself advice that we give people. But a lot more importantly, we found that this was a great platform for brands to tell their stories, right? So we've created opportunities for brands to share their own brand profiles. People can like the brands, and therefore they start getting automatic alerts when a new season, a fresh arrival comes of that brand, and brands are using this in a very powerful way now. Brands tell stories about their new collections, because they also find that when they tell a story about a collection, the ability for people to understand and be able to buy is much better. There's a personalized feed, so if you have selected kind of brands and kind of products that you like, you get a personalized feed as an individual. So, this was the holy grail for me as a marketer years ago, where we said, okay, I wish we could do n equal to 1 in terms of our segmentation. And today, thanks to technology, it's actually possible, and that's what we are doing. Moving from here to a completely different domain, right? So this is all on the app and in the good old digital world as we understand. But we said, what if we took content marketing and did it in the most traditional way that the fashion industry understands, which is an offline store. So for one of our iconic brands called Roadstar, we actually launched our first offline store. It's actually more meant to be an experience store so that people understand the brand philosophy about living a Roadster life. And we said, okay, therefore, let's immerse them into what that means, right? And here was a brand with an attitude, and we said, okay, if you want to make this about content and you're doing it in an offline context, what better way than actually creating a talking store? So we actually have created India's first talking store in Roadster. And again, rather than talk more about it, why don't I let the AV do the job for me?
very different, even conceptually compared to a lot of the other, apparel stores. It's really, really raw.
This is the heart of the highway.
I think it's brilliant.
I've never seen a store like this before.
Thank you. So that was the last one in terms of examples, and I thought for a quick wrap up, why not talk a bit about the future? So we opened up with saying, what are the trends that have become here and now? And here is a quick belief on, what do we think is going to happen in the future? Some of it very predictable. I think video will continue to dominate even more. We have seen the start of the transition from just good old textual and blogs as well as display postings to the world of video, and we believe this consumption is only going to increase thanks to both the ability for people to get access, but equally because a lot more companies are investing in providing good quality content out there. We believe that the choices of millennials will start to dictate content development much more. So if you look at the good old traditional media, they have all been oriented towards the middle-aged average Indian population, and that led to the whole soaps era of content creation. But we believe that the new wave of content creation now, and it's already started to happen if you look at what's happening on digital content, is that it will start to leverage the millennials' choices. Great news for all of us. I think, gone would be the days, I genuinely believe, when all, high quality entertainment content at least we could watch was stuff that was happening in Hollywood, and, we were kind of actually streaming and seeing it here. I think very large quantums of made for India original content is going to grow. And I think that's fantastic news for us as marketers, because we will actually have much more platforms to actually start publishing and creating content of our own. Mobile will become a dominant consumption channel, and I think that writing is already on the wall. We started to see with the latest edition of the IPL, when I was recently reading how almost as many people viewed it online as were actually viewing it on TV, right? And I think that's telling us something on how the content consumption is shifting to multiple devices. And therefore, we all need to be cognizant of the touch points and make sure that we're present across not just the full consumer journey, but actually literally across every touch point. So thank you. That's about it from me. Questions?
Thank you so much, Gunjan. Can we all have a round of applause for sharing some very relevant core beliefs of content marketing, emphasizing the...
and I know it's not cliche, I shouldn't be using my own example. But I think if I don't take my own example, then the last one that comes to mind was the Google campaign, where they again used the power of human storytelling to talk about, of course, a product which is technology. Among my own pieces of content, it's really tough to choose, so I'm not going to say anything.
Thank you so much, Gunjan. So there's a huge queue I can see. We'll start from you, lady in black. Am I audible? Okay.
This was a fantastic presentation. Thank you. I'm Pratibha from IBM, and what I noticed is all the examples, especially the pieces where you mentioned celebrity, and most of the examples have Bollywood actors, right? And you mentioned the campaign was less than 10 lakhs. I mean, a usual high value celebrity TVCs like 20 lakh, 30 lakh, these are all high value traditional FMCG marketing. And I noticed that you did say that, digital is reducing the budget that you use compared to the big brand FMCG. So I'm pretty curious, how do you actually make that happen? Especially the piece where you said you use 20 celebrities at the same time. I mean, the endorsements are extremely expensive, right?
So I think, so let me separate the two. The 10 lakh example was of Anouk, and that was not celebrity led. But having said that, I think the reason we are able to leverage celebrities is because most of these celebrities are associated with us in some shape or form by virtue of the brands that they're already endorsing. So we actually partner with them to amplify the brand that they're already endorsing, and making it clear that they're actually going to come together on Myntra to be able to buy the favorite brands that they already endorse. So we are not actually, paying them separately to endorse Myntra. It's not a Myntra endorsement. It's actually a continuation of their brand endorsement, but done in a way that it actually is able to amplify an event, which is actually an event where brands themselves participate.
Okay. So it's like a partner network.
Exactly.
And the second question we had on our table, we were curious, was the Freedom ad that you had. That was a TVC or a YouTube video?
No, it was just, we did it on multiple digital assets, but digital only. YouTube was one of the mediums we used. We used Facebook and others as well.
So, but who was it intended for? Was it intended for the existing buyers of Myntra, because the profile you had was different, whereas the people you were showcasing were probably like an auto driver or someone. They wouldn't actually see this and go and purchase. So was it just an example to drive the other set of people to buy, or what?
So the TG was the same, urban TG that I talked about, but it was meant to showcase a point of view about the right of fashion, and therefore it actually resonated with our traditional TG itself. I mean, just look at this room as well. This is our TG, and I think among all the AVs I showed, that was the one that got the most claps, right? So the choice of the person who's been showcased there is not the TG that we were going after, but we used them to make a point.
Sure. Thank you.
I request you to please avoid follow-up questions as there's a long.
And Myntra, being an online B2C company, is using augmented reality and stuff like artificial intelligence to create a context for content, and how it is using it for creating the content after the context is created, and how it is being delivered to the end user at the time when they press the add to cart or the buy now.
Excellent question, and you used two of my favorite words these days. So I think augmented reality in a way is what we were trying to do in the Roadster store, right? So several examples you saw there of actually taking people in for an experience, whether it was through the use of the VR headsets, which actually take you to the locations that we believe a Roadster should be enjoying. We also had tools there for allowing people for a more immersive experience where they can actually shoot in the locations and so on and so forth, right? So that sense of augmented reality is something that we're trying to use in our stores. Artificial intelligence is completely embedded in our platform itself, right? So when I talked about personalization, we believe that the use of artificial intelligence is best done to actually allow people to make the decisions faster, and therefore we have used it more at the endpoint, which is the conversion stage, versus at the top of the funnel. And that's where you actually find that, assuming you had actually last bought, I'm making it up, a boyfriend jeans, then in the world of fashion, the way artificial intelligence gets applied also needs to have a human touch, right? So instead of the machine learning algorithms, we are actually going after the neural network based algorithms, where we are trying to replicate how people make fashion choices, right? And what I mean by that is that instead of recommending something similar, which is what most traditional recommendation algorithms do. So what do you find? I mean, you read this kind of book, so the same genre will keep getting recommended to you, right? As an example. What we are doing is something different, right? So like, to take the example of the boyfriend jeans, if that's what you had bought last time, we know you like jeans and denims as a category, but could we, for example, now excite you about a different type of it, right? So whether it's a faded one or whether it's a distressed denim, that so you will actually get what we are starting to call N+1 and -1 recommendations, and not the same type of stuff, right? And that's where we are actually applying our more neural network based algorithms to actually make those recommendations, and it is behind the success of a lot of the conversion rate improvements that we see.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi. I am Arnav from Royal Enfield. We have a gear business line. I'm sure you're aware of that. So from that perspective, my question is about Roadster. Do you approach it as a retail only or a retail first? Or what is the approach to the business? That's A. And B, for all the innovations that you have done on the store, what has been the effect on the online business?
Right. So let me take it in two parts, because your question had two parts to it. I think on number one, No, our intent is not to create a offline store. Our intent is to still continue to be an online platform for buying fashion. What we wanted to do, however, was because Roadster as a philosophy needs to be understood by people and lived, and therefore the store has been created more as an experience store. Yes, having said that, we know that people need instant gratification. So if you walk into the store, it's not like, something is available, we don't have the option to buy. But large part of the catalogs are still scannable, and you can literally, using those touch screens, you can select, you will see the product on your app immediately, you can put in purchase order, right? And it will get delivered to you. We're also using that touch point to build trust. So for any exchanges or returns, for people who are in the vicinity, they could actually do it there as well, in addition to just asking for the return at their home, right? But the primary objective is experience and embedding in that experience of the brand. Sales is just a add-on benefit that we expect to happen. Your second question is exactly the reason for doing this, because we believe that if we are able to better engage in an experiential way, it should lead to better online sales, right? And this is a recent event, so we just launched it not more than 45 days back. But even in the 45 days, we've seen that sales from the pin codes for Bangalore overall for Roadster has gone up. And certainly from the belt of Indranagar, Koramangala and surrounding areas where the store is located, we see a lot more repeat purchases happening, right? And what we also do is, especially people who visit the store, we actually do tag and take their details. So we are mapping that up and seeing that we definitely see an uptick. A lot of them were actually existing consumers as well. But we still see repeat purchases go up much more because now they've been able to experience the brand. And this was a brand where we were experimenting with actually a lot of technology in the product itself, right? In creating various kind of fits. And therefore, we wanted to tell that story to people. And this allows us an opportunity to do that.
You can connect that you use and you would recommend for e-commerce specifically.
Look, on a platform like this, if I actually recommend any tools, I'll get into trouble. So don't have any preference. I think we are always looking for new and innovative ideas. There's several people who reach out to us, and without any biases, we actually explore and partner with very new age companies as well, if we find that the solution is relevant for us.
Okay, thank you so much.